meditative alone, I started looking into how to snare rabbits with wire snares. And I've done a lot of snaring over the years. As a kid, I snared coons, foxes, coyotes, beavers, all sorts of stuff, but it was all done with modern cable snares with snare locks. And I couldn't find any information on how to snare effectively with wire. There's a big difference between these two things. So this is a modern cable snare. This is what you'd be snaring things like bobcat, coyotes, beaver, and stuff like that. This is what most trappers in the U.S. are going to be using. These cable snares like this are very, very strong. And with a cable snare this size, you can snare bobcat, lynx, raccoon, even something as big as a pretty good sized beaver you could catch with a snare like this. These little snare locks, once they close down, they do not come loose until you come and actually remove it yourself. Very, very effective snare. So for snaring rabbits and squirrels, we're actually going to be using 22 gauge stainless steel malleable wire. I say malleable because you want to avoid the wire that's got a lot of spring to it, because when this stuff tightens down, we want it to kink around the rabbit's neck so that it doesn't come loose. I'm going to put a link to this down in the video description. So two of the biggest differences between wire and cable is, one, there's no snare lock on a wire snare, and two, it's not nearly as strong as cable. And in fact, that's why you are required to use wire for things like rabbit, because a bigger animal can break this pretty doggone easily, whereas most of the time with a hair, you're going to be fine using this. So snares have a number of advantages. One is they are very, very inexpensive. They are quick and easy to set up, so you can set a lot of them. They are passive, so they're out there working 24/7 while you're doing other things, and they are very, very effective. Let's take a look at how to make them. All right, so I've got about 2 feet or so of wire. Just gonna make a little loop in the end. Nothing super fancy.
Oh, I do got one of those. Okay.
Wrap around a couple times. Make sure it's not going to come loose.
I need wire.
Flip off any excess.
In the fire hall? Okay, I'm in the second office past Beth's office. You're welcome.
That's it. Now, when you're sitting around camp, you make up dozens and dozens of these things. Just coil them up and wrap the end around. And just stick those in your pocket when you're out on the snare line. You've got them ready to go. When you get ready to set it, just uncoil it, straighten that out, and you're ready to rock. So for rabbits, I like to make a loop. It's about 4 inches or so in diameter, about the size of my palm. Something about like that. All right, so I've got a little rabbit run where they're coming out into this field to feed. There's a bunch of rabbit sign out there. There's a little shrub where they've been nipping off. There's a bunch of wild carrot or sweet cicely out here where the rabbits have been feeding on it. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just set this snare right here along this trail. I'm gonna tie it to the base. There's a little shrub here to the side. I'm gonna tie it right to the base of it. Let me use the stiffness of the wire to place it. So when I place it, the loop is about the size of my palm, and it's about 4 fingers off the ground. Now the last thing that I like to do is take a little stick, just like this, stick it in the ground just below the snare, just so that it comes out and sticks up about a finger's width below that snare. And what this does is keeps the rabbit from ducking underneath the snare. He comes, sees this stick, and hops right through here, gets through, tries to go, the rabbit or the snare closes down behind his neck, and you got it. Chokes him out very quickly. So I'm going to use a little stuffed animal rabbit with the floppy ears to show you how they would get caught in here. So rabbits are used to going through very tight spots. And so when they come up to one and your snare be in a tight spot, they'll lay their ears back and hop right through. And when he gets his head through, he feels a little bit of tension. He's going to panic and dart. And when he does, it's going to tighten up around his neck and it's going to choke him out very quickly within just a few seconds. Now, when you come out and find him the next morning, you just take the snare wire off of his neck, put him to the side, and your snare is going to be all kinked up. Now, you're not going to want to reset it like this. You're going to want to straighten this wire out before you reset this thing. You can kind of straighten it out somewhat just by running your fingers on it, but it's still going to be pretty kinked up, and that makes it just so it doesn't slide very efficiently, and that's something that's pretty doggone important. And so what you do, you take that thing apart, you find you a branch, this little tree right here will do it, it's fine. You put that over it, and then you just rub it back and forth, and that'll take every one of those kinks out of there and make that wire like brand new. Now you can just put your loop back through there and reset this thing just like new. Bam. So it's important to have your loop the right diameter so that you catch the animal around the neck, because when you catch it around the neck, they die very quickly, they don't struggle, and not only is it easier on the animal, but also you have less risk of losing that animal through it breaking your snare. So remember, about a 4-inch circle, about 4 fingers off the ground, put a little chin lifter stick right there, put it right in the middle of a rabbit rhyme, and you got a rabbit the next morning. So making and deploying little rabbit snares like this is very quick and easy. If I had these things pre-made, I could probably set 2, maybe 3 dozen of these things before I could make one single deadfall. If you're going to be setting very many of these snares, I would highly recommend that you mark your trap location somehow, because these little thin wire snares are very difficult to see when they're set. They're easy to lose. And so putting some sort of flagging or even cutting a blaze in the tree is a great way to do it. On season 8 of Alone, I took a pair of XXL hot pink boxers, cut those into strips, and then I hung those strips in the trees where I had my snare set, and that worked pretty good as well. All right, guys, I hope you learned something. And this winter, when we get a little bit of snow cover, I'm actually going to try to find a place that I can do some snaring. We're going to set some of these things and see if we can't catch some dinner. So stick around. We'll see you later.
Okay. Winter time.
I can tell from my beard the conditions have really changed. We went from above freezing, well above freezing, well below freezing. Got just a dusting of snow. It's an ideal time to come out and then study what's going on. So I've come to a brand new area. I checked all my snares, nothing happening. So I'm going to set a couple traps up here on a ridge and a blowdown. And I caught a fresh rabbit track here. And because of all the traffic they're getting, the dog walkers and all that stuff, that's a lot of pressure on them, which of course the dog walkers don't realize, but they're pressuring them all the time. So the hares have to go off and hide. They can't forage all the time. So what they're doing is they're going from cover to cover in this open space, and they're looking for these blowdown areas. I've cut a nice trail underneath a couple of logs, and then into some other ones over here too. I'm going to set a snare down in here and try to trap this particular hare that's doing this runway here. I originally cut the track up here, and then the hare is coming through here, and then it actually came right through here. I've already added the second branch here, but this is from the existing tree. I can actually do that. See that the hare all the way over. So what I'm thinking, here's some bubble security. You can see not much here, down in here, spruce, all try down there, but it's a little tight. I just like this spot. I just like this spot here because it's forcing air through a nice area. It feels nice and comfortable.
Oh, really?
Running through here across here, then make it go over there. You guys, I'm going to show you how to put a snare together. We're just going to cut off for about 2 feet of wire here. Just making a loop here, and I'm going to twist the end over. I'm not sure if you guys ever play any online games, but Guns of Glory is pretty neat. Very addictive game. You're going to do battle against other clans. And the fun thing about it is you get to do it all around the world. For size, I like to go about a fist size, and then off the ground about a thumb and a hand or so. And you can experiment with this to see what works best for you. I find that works best for me. One really cool feature about the game is you get to develop air shifts using cutting-edge scientific technology. So you're kind of on the cusp of that big technological barrier to medieval war. So you're going to go in, you're going to design these warships, go in and destroy things. You can set traps, and you do a lot of collecting, a lot of modern foraging, going around collecting all these different things to strengthen your army and defeat your enemy. So here you go. Here's our snare. Let's go set these off in the woods all over the place and see if we can get ourselves a meal. Snowshoe hare need to pause every so often because they're not long distance runners. They're excellent fast speed runners, but they're going from cover to cover. Basically, it's to evade predators. They're not long distance runners, so they, if they're getting pursued by a wolf or something, they're eventually going to get caught up to, unless they can dive and duck into that cover. I just want to let the camera run here and show you how I dress up this snare.
Okay. So it doesn't matter if you have what terrain is. Okay.
So the rabbit will actually eat cedars here. So it'll be another way to entice it to come in. So I did make one mistake here. I didn't step on the path necessarily. I stepped over it, but those hare are not going to be super comfortable walking through any of those divots there. They're going to want to go through here. Here's an idea of the finished set. I think that looks pretty inviting. You can see I made kind of a natural funnel just to get it directed in there. I've added a chin-up bar. I don't like to use super thick ones at the bottom, and then it makes a V shape. That'll direct that. There's head. So I want to give you some perspective here. We sit. That'll be another way to, and then come in, entice it to come in.
I don't know if you guys can see it. It's right around there.
So I did make one mistake here. I didn't step on the path necessarily. I stepped over it. But those hare are not going to be super comfortable walking through any of those divots there. They're going to want to go through here. Here's an idea of the finished set.
There.
I think that looks pretty inviting. You can see I made kind of a natural funnel just to get it directed in there. I've added a chin-up bar. I don't like to use super thick ones at the bottom, and then I make that V shape. That'll direct that hare's head right through the snare. So I want to give you some perspective here. We set the other snare on the other side of this brush pile, and And coming through here, you can see there's a rabbit track there. And then as you make your way back here, there's a really good pinch point. I actually kind of doctored this area up a little bit. I broke a big branch that was kind of in the way. And if you look this way, you can see that there's a hair track leaving. So I suspect they probably just jumped a rabbit out of this spot. So this is a nice little tangle area that rabbit's been evading predators from, this little space here. So you might wonder, why would I put one on that side and at that side? Well, thing is, I can catch a hare on both sides. It doesn't mean just because there's a hare caught on one side doesn't mean that another hare might not come on this side. And that's exactly what happens. As you remove one hare from an area, another new hare moves in and takes over. It's pretty much as simple as that. There's a woodpecker going behind me here. So don't hesitate to trap the same hare, because to move on to a new set of hares, that's quite a bit of walking. So you want to concentrate on trying to get that one hare out of each area before you move on to another one. Let's explain what's going on here. So what I've done is, obviously, I added these sticks here. This was already there, attached to the original tree. I added this as well because it was fairly big opening. This was existing, and you can see it kind of tapers down. Added a couple more sticks here just to block those paths off. So it's anchored here. I've got it just the right height off the ground. I've got my chin-up stick. I've got my V sticks here. I'm adding the chin-up stick because I'm not getting the right gap. I just want it to lift its chin up just to get through here. And I've added on the left side some vines that are hanging around. The vines, what it's going to do is confuse the hare. A hare knows it can push through a vine. It knows it can't push through the sticks. So generally speaking, if you fill this area up with really rigid, thick sticks, it'll think, well, something happened. The tree fell down. I can't get through this opening anymore. But if you put these around, it confuses the hare's eyes, but it also thinks, hey, I can push through that. It's just a little vine. So leaving these little vines around confuses the hare, and then they don't notice this artificial thing in the way. So the idea is if the hare is running through here, starting to jump into cover, it's not going to pay too much attention to all this that's going on. Just put its head through, and it's going to think it's into safety, but it's actually not going to be at all. Anybody want to try to guess what those things are? It's making those tracks. Oh yeah, there. Here's a closer look. Put your guesses down in the comments. One long toe, one short toe, another short toe. Looks like a little claw at the back. You guys figure it out. Hey, good morning, guys. I got my little man here, Holden. He's going to give me a hand checking the snares. I'm trying to get him to wipe it out. It's slippery out here. Trying to get him a little bit more involved in the outdoors, but also hunting. And snaring is one of those things that you can bring a kid along and it doesn't make too much difference. They have to understand a few rules, like not stepping on the rabbit trails, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you can make as much noise as you want, so you don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about scaring animals away. And then you kind of learn the habits of wildlife, and you learn the behaviors and do some tracking and all that good stuff. So we're gonna go check our snares, see what we got. If we do catch something, we're going to turn it into a fresh meal. So I've got an idea about that. Got a bunch of snares out yesterday, and I think it's pretty exciting to come check them, right? You never know if you're going to catch something. It's always exciting when you do. So what do you think? If we catch something, we'll make a meal for the boys? Yeah, Holland's got his cousins up. He's got 3 cousins all about the same age, and they have a buddy over. So we'll make a nice meal for them, something that they can have for lunch and they can see from beginning to end, field to fork. So we're coming up on our first net here. Looks like we have some fresh tracks here. I used to have a snare up in this area here, but because it's in close proximity to this walking trail, I didn't want to put one out in there. But it used to be very productive, and I could see that a new hare has already moved in. Over here is where I had a set a couple of days ago on that tree, and I caught one. So I was hesitant in putting another one spot. So maybe next year we'll have to put another one. This is a good spot, I think, right? Yeah. See all these fresh, super fresh tracks. They like to go in these blowdowns here. There's lots of cover in there, lots of places for them to hide. first set and it's empty. But again, it looks like a rabbit actually went through there not too long ago. That one's not working.
I noticed that these were tracks from yesterday because yesterday when we checked it, we had to stop it because we saw that the tracks were running around the trap. So then these are just tracks from yesterday.
If you guys can identify that track, it's got 2 toes. Any ideas? Hold it.
Idea?
Somewhere here.
What do you think it is?
I think it's a deer.
Yep, deer for sure. Fresh this morning, looks like, right?
Mm-hmm. There's not very much snow on top of it.
You're right. Let's see if you can figure out. There's a track there, a track here, there's a track there. That's got snow, more snow on it. Back there. There's the snare. It goes into a big thicket of cover. Did we miss one? Or what happened? Look closely at the tracks. So those tracks are actually not hair tracks. They're from a squirrel. Looks like a little red squirrel is actually hiding in there. So we didn't miss a hair here. So that's good news and bad news. Good news is obviously our set didn't fail. Bad news is, well, there's not a hair nearby. It's always good news when I have fresh rabbit tracks near my sets.
Yeah.
Do you see fresh tracks? Where are they?
So track part is okay. It's just
Where do they go?
All the way under there.
location
Yeah,
part.
under that log over there. But you know what?
What?
I didn't set a snare over there. I set a snare to the right. So can you follow the rabbit tracks over to the right and see where they lead to?
Okay.
Okay, so get up. And I want you to, if you have to go around this big bush, you can go around the bush.
Okay.
Okay, go around the bush and then find the tracks on the other side of it. Cut over to the left here. Cut over to the left. Remember the track here? Over here. Yeah, you're right. There's a track that goes that way, but it splits over here. One over. One over.
I don't see where it's. Oh, right there.
What do you see?
There's a hair right there.
There's a hair right there. Actually, so if you look over here, there's a trail here, and then right there it splits and goes off over to the left.
Yeah.
And then where does it go?
Into the snare.
Into the snare. So go run up and see if you can get a rabbit.
And I think that one.
Yeah, we did get one. So that one, that was my under the log set. So it was set just